We are here on 22 Minutes with the world-famous Lidia Bastianich. Lidia, it's so good to have you here.
Ah, buongiorno, Brigitte.
Buongiorno. I love to hear it said like that. And this is going to be the longest 22 minutes of all of our lives because we have these desserts here, and we're not going to eat them until the interview is over.
Oh,
they
okay.
look so good. So much to talk to you about. Your resume, 4 New York City restaurants. You have restaurants in Pittsburgh, Kansas City, too,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Italy.
Yes,
Okay.
that's where the desserts come from.
Fifth Avenue in New York City. 10 cookbooks?
Yes.
10 cookbooks. 3 children's books.
Exactly.
Line of pastas and sauces.
Richard, you're on top of things.
I'm not done yet. This is amazing. Award-winning cooking shows on PBS, which I was lucky enough to catch over the weekend. And you also own the company that produces some of the television, right?
The shows, yes.
Okay, so
yes.
you built this empire. Does it feel like that? What is it like?
No, it doesn't, Bridget. No, it still feels to me, you know, it's a family thing. I'm all about family. And I was lucky enough that the businesses expanded as the family joined in, as my son joined in, as my daughter joined in, their special interest. And you know, Bridget, in this industry, I got a lot of opportunities. I was blessed to get a lot of opportunities. You know, my first book, my first TV, they all have a story to it, you know, how it happened. And taking these opportunities along the way is how my business grew. It's not a pre-planned, I'm going to, a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan. It's you know, it's organic growth.
You mentioned your family, and in particular, your daughter, Tanya, helped you write the new book, right?
Exactly.
Lydia's
Well,
Mastering the Art of Italian Cuisine, the new book. So how did you two work together on this book?
Well, we worked. My daughter is an art historian, so she's very much into research. And but let me go back. How did I, you know, because my children, the first business I had was a little restaurant. My husband and I, we had this little restaurant in Forest Hills, and it had 9 tables. And I had Joe by then, my son. Then right away, I got pregnant with Tanya, and so they grew up in the business. And they were there. Grandma would come, would help take them back home while I work at night. Right. As they grew up as teenagers, you know, I would say, because the restaurant business is you know, looks kind of fun. I says, no, you don't want to do this business.
You didn't want them in it.
No, I told them, you got to get an education, you got to get a real American job. And they did. My daughter got her PhD in Renaissance art history, my son a master's in business, and they went off on their own. But slowly they returned. And my daughter returned because she went to Italy to do her thesis, and you know, and she met Corrado, her husband, a wonderful young man. They got married, of course. And then when she was ready to have children, she said to Corrado, you know, I want to go back home. I want to be close to mom. And she did. She moved right next door. And as she had her first baby, as she was, you know, an intelligent mind is a terrible thing to waste, as they say. So I says, why don't you help me, Tanya? And she was so excited, she got into the books. So it's actually, we did 5 books together. This is the last one we did together. And, you know, she is a researcher, she's an academic. So this book has a great glossary. It has more than 400 recipes.
Where do you get those from, Lydia? I read that you borrow some recipes.
You know,
from whom?
Brigitte, none of the recipes did I invent. You know, they're part of the Italian culinary patrimony, if you will. And then I elaborate them. But in this book, I have because Italian food, when you go to Italy, is very regional. Italy has 20 regions, and the food really reflects the topography, the climate, the customs of that region. And that's real Italian food. When I came to America as a 12-year-old immigrant, you know, this Italian-American food was quite different. So there is the Italian-American food, which is delicious and much loved in America as well. So this book contains some traditional recipes from the regional Italy, some Italian-American recipes, and then some of the recipes that you said, what do you invent? Innovate, let's say. Some of those innovative recipes that I come along with.
Right. You mentioned family. I want to talk about your background because it is really interesting. I want to get all the geography correct here. Istria?
Correct.
Northeastern Italy, where you spent your childhood. with your grandmother. I think when you talk to people who love cooking, they tend to have such vivid memories of the things that they noticed in the kitchen when they were growing up. What was it like being with your grandmother as a child?
Well, it is those formative years that we take everything in.
Right.
And the political situation there was a little difficult. It was right after World War II. Istria belonged to Italy, but Italy lost the war in World War II. And so the Paris Treaty ultimately, the decision of where the borders would go, gave Istria to the newly formed communist Yugoslavia. I was just born in the year 47. I was born in February. The Paris Treaty was a few days after I was born, was signed. So I was caught in that turmoil, and we remained as a family behind the Iron Curtain. So it was a bit difficult, ethnically. They didn't allow us to speak Italian, go to church, whatever communist dogma really put down. But I had this little piece of heaven, which was the courtyard where my grandmother, my maternal grandmother and grandfather, and it was a little bit outside of the city. And what they had there was, because also food was difficult to get,
Sure.
So she had all the courtyard animals. We had chickens, we had ducks, we had rabbits, we had goats, we had pigs, and then of course the garden, all the fruits and the vegetables from the gardens. Grandma and Grandpa made olive oil. They made wine. Every November, late November, the slaughter of the pigs. We made the prosciutto, the sausages, the bacon, and I was involved in all of that. I was a little runner, not that I was, but I absorbed it all in, and those wonderful, pristine flavors, the natural flavors of that olive oil just being made, or that perfectly ripe fig. Those are the things that really stayed with me, and I think were the basis for my passion for food.
Right, but you didn't stay there. You left, and you spent a couple of years, I believe, right, in a refugee camp.
We did. So my parents, we were small, so we stayed there for a while. But when I turned 10, in 1956, actually, my parents decided that this was no way to live. And they decided to go back to Italy. But they wouldn't let us go back to Italy as a family. So my mother, my brother, and myself went to visit relatives in Trieste, which was on the other side of the border. My father had to stay. He was held as a hostage. But then, after 2-3 months, he found a way. He escaped into Trieste, ultimately met up with us, and then we became refugees. Now, we had the opportunity of staying in Italy. And Italy, again, aftermath of war, a little difficulties. There was an opportunity also to go to a political refugee camp, and await an opportunity to migrate. And that's what we did. For 2 years, we stayed in San Saba, which now is a museum. San Saba, a political refugee camp in Trieste.
And now in the camp, you've talked about there being a communal table. How did that sort of shape your food experiences?
Well, I think it was a lot. And the situation there, what it was that the camp was a big courtyard, and of course we had a gate, and you could only go with permission in and out. They checked, but it was like big lofts in 3 floors. This big building was 4 floors. So the bottom floor was where we had the mess hall, if you will, the kitchen, and these long plank wooden tables. On the first floor were the single men. On the second floor were the families, and on the third floor were the single women, refugees as we were. And so when it came food time, we all came down and we literally got online. So I had my little plate. Everybody had their little plate, and they had to wash it and whatever. And you waited online for your food. And then you sat at this big communal table and ate with everybody. So I think that period of my life, it's endearing. It's not, it's not resentful for me. Like somebody would say, "Oh my God, I went through." No, it taught me a lot. I think it taught me how to respect food, how to respect and share with others, and appreciate food. Sometimes there's not enough food.
At what point did you know that you wanted to do this as a living? Was it back when you were with your grandparents, or did it occur to you later in life?
No, later. I kind of, one of those things that you get into it. I think, Brigitte, what really tied me so passionately to food was because when we left with my mother, as children, we were not told of what was going to happen. So I never said goodbye to Grandma. I never said goodbye to my friends. That courtyard, I just was kind of ripped out of that courtyard. And I think that food was my connection. And throughout my life in Trieste, when we came to the States, cooking the foods, the aromas that I remember Grandma doing, brought me back, connected me back to Grandma. And so my passion was there. I love food. Food became a media for me, for myself, giving me comfort and love, but also for others. I shared my story with others. And when I really, as I went here to school, because I came here, I was 12 years old, I did work, part-time like all the kids, and I always gravitated towards food jobs. The first one was actually, I was 14 years old. I lied, I told them I was 16, as a sales girl on a weekend in Walken's Bakery, Christopher Walken. And we still friends.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. And then as I went on to college in the city, we, restaurant, waiting and whatever. And I always kind of, when they needed the last thing, the chef was gone, I would go in the kitchen and whip it up. So I really didn't know. When I really realized was my husband, when I met my husband, he was in the restaurant industry. He was the front of the house, as we say. And once we were married, he wanted to open his little restaurant. And I told him, okay, I'll be your partner.
Buon Vita?
Buona Via.
Buona Via. I know I would not say it nearly as
Buona
beautifully.
Via.
Now, so many people go into the restaurant business and they think, oh, I can do this. And they fail. So many restaurants fail. Or they succeed for a little while, they go out of fashion, and yet you've expanded this chain of restaurants and you've been successful. What's the ingredient for success there?
Yeah, it is. Restaurant business is a very tough business. There's so many variables that can go wrong. And I think, I think it's passion. I think it's knowing the subject matter, knowing what you want to cook, knowing what you want to put on that table for that guest, and doing it properly. But you see, even when we opened our first restaurant in 1971, I wasn't a chef. But we hired a chef, an Italian-American chef. I became his sous chef because I said, okay, I love this. I'm going to get this, and my husband and I, we're going to be great partners. Sometimes there was stuff going, working husband and wife, but it was a great success story. And for 10 years, I was his sous chef, really learned how to handle a commercial kitchen, learned the Italian-American cuisine, the traditional Italian cuisine I knew somewhat, and then travels back. I updated myself regularly. And in 81, by then we had already 2 restaurants, so we were successful. Sold those, and we opened Lidia, and I became the chef in 1985, Lidia on 58th Street.
Now, through all your travels in the food business, you've said that you want to make cooking accessible, easy for people. You're not a screamer. You're not one of these reality show screamers who yells at everybody. You want to make it, I guess, not intimidating. You want people to be able to feel like, I can do this. I can make these recipes, right?
Right, because, Brigitte, my base of cooking is in that home, next to Grandma, next to Mom. And some of my most rewarding moments of cooking is when I cook for family and for friends. And so being a chef is a profession, and it's an elevation, let's say, from just a simple home cook. You dedicate your time to develop your profession, and that's wonderful because, as you can see, all these star chefs and all the accolades and exposure that they get, it's a great, great profession. But still, I think I still want to communicate to that mother at home, to that father at home that wants to cook. And I want them to cook that simple food that for me meant so much when I grew up, when I was in the family, and it still does. So my, the cookbooks, the television, it's really directed at the viewer and giving them, empowering them, because they can do this.
Even though you've cooked for the Pope, for 2 popes.
I did.
What did you make for Pope Francis?
That was an extraordinary opportunity in my life again. And Pope Francis, because I cooked for Pope Benedict 8 years prior to that, when he came, Pope Francis, I thought, okay, he's Argentinian, nice meat, big pieces of meat. So I had this prime rib of beef I was going to do. And then the Vatican says, no, he wants to stay light. He's watching. And so then I went to his kind of heritage. He's Piedmontese. So Piemonte is a region of Italy that's all the way up in the left corner under France and whatever. They eat a lot of rice there. So I made him a wonderful risotto. He loved that. I made him some good soup. You know, you're traveling. He needed some reinforcement. He loves his vegetables, beets, squash, and desserts too. He liked desserts.
Did you make him angel food cake? Is that
did.
true?
I did. I thought all the stars were aligned on that one. You know, the name, the name, light, and I put next to it though. I put for a little excitement because it was September, it was fall. Concord grape sorbet, and he loved it. He ate the whole thing.
I always wonder with a great chef, is there ever a night when you're home and you just don't feel like putting anything together?
Yeah.
Lydia's never going to just crack open a box of cereal and eat. I mean,
I do
always,
that too.
do
But you know what my kind of go-to unexpected? Peanut butter and jelly.
Really?
Yeah, I love it. I don't put it on Wonder Bread,
kidding.
but I put it on crackers.
That's great.
And I love it, you know, and a glass of milk too.
That's funny. Do people ever cook for you? Like if you were to come over to my house for dinner, I would be terrified to cook for you.
You see, that's what happens.
What is that like?
That's what happens in most cases. Not the people that know me. And I am really the simplest of eaters. You know, just give me a little simple salad or grill. Give me spaghetti, garlic, and oil. I am happy. So, you know, I always say just anything that you have, anything that you do well, I will appreciate and enjoy. So, you know, yeah, the people get kind of uptight, but there's nothing to get uptight. I like simple, straight food.
That's nice to hear. So recently we celebrated our 50th anniversary at 1010 Wins, and we asked people to name like the most iconic New York foods. You know, people talked about hot dogs and cheesecake. Is there some place that, you know, maybe you would go like undercover and walk the streets in the Village and go to like a favorite, not one of your own places, and grab a certain kind of ethnic food or something that you enjoy in New York?
Absolutely. I love Thai food. I love Chinese food. But about 2 weeks ago, I was at Katz Deli, and I was dying for the pastrami sandwich. And I had a chocolate egg shake, whatever, egg milk, whatever. What's the drink with
Egg cream.
Egg cream. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I had.
Yeah.
And I did a show or something. I was with my makeup artist, and I said, let's go have lunch. And that's where we ended up.
Oh, that sounds good. Now, everybody has been, as I said at the start of our conversation, salivating over these. Now, everything here on the table, is every recipe in the new book, or it's just a sampling?
Yeah, this is a sampling. The biscotti, the butter cookies, the amaretti, these are little cream puffs. But this because I wanted, you know, I knew we were going to be here, maybe finger food. I didn't want to make a big presentation. But the recipes here can be brought, the dessert recipes, into this kind of presentation. And that's what, you know, when I talk to my audience, you know, sometimes, oh my God, this looks so complicated. It really doesn't. You do the cookies.
Really?
Yeah, no,
They're so
it doesn't.
Pretty.
Yeah?
I almost don't want to eat it, but I want to eat it. Well,
you
which
know,
one should
berries.
Can I try one? Which one should I try?
Oh my goodness, I don't know what you like. Let's see. This one is very good. Has a little bit of the amaretto. You like amaretto?
I
You
sure
like
do.
almond?
I sure do.
Okay.
This looks wonderful.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
And
Wait,
it's not too messy.
before I take a bite, I want to ask you a question so you can answer while I'm chewing.
Okay.
So when we started the show, we thought we might ask everybody a question. If you could spend 22 minutes with somebody, so I want to spin that a little bit. If you could cook for somebody, you know, we mentioned you cook for the Pope, you've cooked for, my goodness, everybody. Who would you want to cook for?
That's an interesting question. You know, I cooked for quite a few people, but if I had 22 minutes, I would like to take an average housewife out there that has questions about, you know, cooking for the family. I would like to get into it. And in 22 minutes, we can make a 3-course meal without any problems.
In 22 minutes?
Absolutely. We could make, you know, for a little appetizer, a little salad, maybe a little pasta, and a quick dessert. Even a zabaione, a quick zabaione we can whip up, put over some berries. So I would like to put those 22 minutes to transform the idea of a meal to somebody that thinks that they cannot cook.
This is fantastic. I'm going to scarf down a bunch of these when we finish. Can I be that housewife? Please.
Okay, we can plan. We can plan.
Lidia Bastianich, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for the goodies. I know everybody can't wait to dig in, and wonderful to talk with you. And again, the new book, Lidia's Mastering the Art of Italian Cuisine, available everywhere, right?
It is, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Bridget. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Same.